Thank you. As you all know, one of the things that I've talked about, and I think that when we are in a tough economic time, it gives us a chance to try to think outside the box, to try to think of some new ideas and at least generate discussions of if maybe we can do things differently than the way we've been doing it. If I'm not mistaken, the budget law in the state of Oklahoma is over 60 years old. I think it's about 1947. Perhaps it's time for us to look at what we're doing and see if we can do it differently. I am concerned that the three years that I've been Lieutenant Governor and served on the Board of Equalization, our estimate has dropped between December to February, the two statutory times when we are required to meet. I think there's an opportunity that if we do have a discussion and determine whether or not Oklahoma could look at having a budget session, a session that focuses strictly on the programs and services that are provided by the state and how taxpayer money is spent, I think a number of things happen. One, we have an opportunity to see exactly where the dollars are going. We have an opportunity for 101 members of the House and 48 members of the Senate to be actively involved in hearing from a subcommittee, as a subcommittee member from state agencies, and being able to ask the questions. A number of years ago, we passed legislation that requires performance measures trying to make our state agencies, all departments, perform in a more business-like function. Those that receive federal funds have to respond to performance measures, but Oklahoma is not a state that has ever actively pursued how do we measure whether a state agency is spending its money the way it should. We have an opportunity to focus if we only focus on the budget during a session. And I think that this is something that we need to discuss. And when we do that, it allows us an opportunity to perhaps look at the way that the revenue forecasting occurs. Right now, when you sit on the Board of Equalization, we go to the meeting, we receive information, we get briefed beforehand. But in all honesty, at the Oklahoma Tax Commission, there's a gentleman who knows how to do the formula. He studies econometric models from around the country. He looks at how different segments of the economy are forecasted in other states, and then he derives what he believes is going to be appropriate for the state of Oklahoma. Maybe it's the best in the state, in the country, but if we haven't looked at it and if we haven't compared with what other states are doing, how do we know if we're doing the best that we can? Right now, North Dakota and Montana are the only two states that are not suffering from some type of a revenue shortfall with their budgets. We're not as bad as a lot of places. But what were those two states doing that perhaps we could do better? I think this gives us a chance to talk about innovative ideas. I think with the use of the Rainy Day Fund, this is exactly why the people changed. The constitutional vote a number of years ago changed how the Rainy Day Fund could be spent. Only 3/8 of it can be spent to stabilize the current fiscal year's budget. That's about $224 million that would be available if the legislature and the governor agree. I think it's important for us to spend that in areas that are not going to be able to be saved or maintained through the stimulus money. Economic development requires strong infrastructure, but changes that were made for transportation funding almost holds transportation harmless right now. The stimulus dollars that are left to be spent, most are dedicated toward education, and most of that is for common education, some of it for higher ed. But the areas that are hurt are those that are health, mental health, and those would be priorities that I think we should look to balance the budget with the rainy day funds.
Okay, for the next question,